Welcome back to my channel on linguistics and language learning. In this video, I'm going to talk about phonological rules, one of the subjects considered difficult by many language learners. Well, phonological rules, or the topic on phonological rules, is the main concern in generative phonology. Now, let's talk about the concept of phonological rules. Phonological rules are operational statements in which sound segment is modified or sound segment is changed, resulted in a new segment. This is actually the main principle of phonological rules. There must be a sound modified into a new segment. Now, a rule can be used to describe the phenomena that take place in the language sound system. In other words, through the phonological rules, we can say that certain language phenomena are systematic. Okay, in this case, the sound change is systematic. Not all sound changes are arbitrary because we can use phonological rules to show that the phenomena can be researched or can be proved. The rule may add elements, remove elements, or substitute elements. In other words, phonological rules may involve elements or sound segments. So yeah, we focus on sounds. Of course, the elements here sound segments. So phonological rules may add sound segments or may remove delayed sound segments or may substitute the sound segments or change the sound segments into the other sound segments. The rule contains theoretical statements. This is very important. So phonological rules contain theoretical statements to demonstrate that there is order in linguistic phenomena, that not all linguistic phenomena are arbitrary. So there's an order. There's a particular order in linguistic phenomena to show that linguistic patterns are systematic. Now, let's see the general appearance of phonological rules. In general, we can say that the phonological rules are composed of A, and then arrow, and then B, and then slash, and then C. And in some sources, you can find that A is replaced by, let's say, X, and then B, Y, C, Z, or we can also have A, and then B becomes X, and C, Y, etc. It depends on, but I use here the symbol A, B, and C. Now let's talk about each of the symbols involved in phonological rules. A represents the original sound, so the sound which has not been modified. And then the arrow is a marker. It's a marker indicating change to or modified to, or we can say that the original sound changes to, or the original sound is modified to. And then B represents the modified sound or the sound which has been modified, or we can say the new segment. Okay. And then slash. Slash here is also a marker. And this marker is a notational device. Yeah, that is notational device to separate the rule from the phonological environment. So you can see here that we can say this is the rule, okay? And then slash here to differentiate or to separate, okay? To separate this rule, okay? This rule and the phonological environment or phonological condition. And the last one is C. C is the phonological environment or phonological condition. We can say phonological environment because it is the place or it is a condition where the changes can take place. So there must be a phonological environment. In other words, the changes only occur in certain phonological environment. Now, let's understand the general concept of phonological rules. So, conditions are normally written before or after a horizontal line. Okay, we know that the general rule is A. We can say that A becomes B whenever A is situated before or after C. So the conditions are normally represented by a horizontal line. So we can have this one. So as we have discussed before, that A is the original sound, and this represents changes to or modified to, and this one is the modified sound or the new segment, okay, or the new sound segment. And this one is to show the condition, and see here the phonological environment, and the horizontal line here represents where the original sound is located. Okay, now this formula shows that the segment being changed occurs before the condition C. Why? Because the underline, the horizontal line, okay, the horizontal line is located before C. If the horizontal line is located after C, it means that the sound changes whenever the original sound is located after C, as you can see here. So this formula can be read: A changes to B whenever A is situated after C. Okay, so C here is the phonological condition or phonological environment. This formula shows that the segment being changed occurs after the condition C. Okay, so whenever the horizontal line occurred before C, it means that the original sound is located before C, or before the phonological environment. Okay, now other frequently used notational devices are word boundary. The second one is parenthesis, and the last one is braces. So there are some notational devices which are useful in the process of phonological rules, or in formulating phonological rules. They are word boundary, and then parenthesis, and the last one is braces. As you can see, this is the symbol of word boundary, indicates either initial or final position of the sound in a word. And it indicates an initial sound when it comes before the horizontal line. Okay, see the following example. So when you see here that the word boundary is situated or is placed before the horizontal line, it means that the sound which is modified is located in the first position of a word, or it is the initial sound of a word. Now, when it is located after the horizontal line, as you can see here, it means that the changes only occurs when the original sound is located after C, and it is the final sound of a word. So this is the first one. This is the first notational device to indicate the phonological rule. Whenever it is situated before the horizontal line, it indicates that the sound is the initial sound of a word. But when it locates after the horizontal line, so it is the final sound of a word. Now, yeah, so we can read this formula as A changes to B after C, and A is the final sound of a word. Now, the second notation device is parenthesis. If word boundary indicates the initial or final sound, parenthesis indicates optionality. Okay, optional. So when we have this rule, for example, so here C is located in parenthesis. So we can say that C here is optional. It means that we can say that A changes to B before D. Okay, this is obligatory. Why is it obligatory? Because it is not located in parenthesis, but C is optional. So we can say that A changes to B whenever A is located before D, okay, or before C and D. That's how we read the formula or how we read the rule. So A changes to B whenever A is placed before D or before C and D. Okay, so we can say that C is optional, but D is obligatory. So as you can see here that whenever we want to branch this or if we want to separate this one rule into two rules, so we have like this. A changes to B whenever A is placed before D, or A changes to B whenever A is located before C and D. Okay, now the last notational device is braces. So be careful with the term parenthesis braces because they are used differently. It means that they indicate different requirements in the phonological rules. So the braces notation indicates that a rule applies under two or more conditions. So it is not a matter of optionality. Now, when we have this one, okay, there are two rules. A becomes B whenever A is situated after C, and then this rule is combined with A changes to B whenever A is located after D. So there are two rules. If we combine these two rules, we may have only one rule here. So the use of braces here, the use of braces, you can see that the use of braces indicates that A becomes B whenever A is situated after or before C and D. So it is not a matter of optionality. Okay, so we can, yeah, as you can see here, once again, we read the rule, A changes to B after C or following C, and A changes to B following D. So there are two conditions where A changes to B. Now let's practice. Okay, let's practice or let's make this phonological rule work. Okay, the main condition of formulating phonological rules is regularity. In other words, you must have regular data before you are able to formulate phonological rules. If the data are not regular or if the case is not regular, you cannot produce or you cannot formulate any phonological rule. So the main condition is regularity. Now, let's see, when we have this data, we have here sign, we have here design, align, grain, and campaign. It seems to us that these data are regular. Why I said regular? Because g here, g is usually removed. Okay, is usually removed in the pronunciation or in the phonetic transcription of the word. So g in sign is no longer produced, is no longer pronounced. So instead of saying sagen, we only pronounce sign. So the g sound is deleted. And also here, G sound is deleted. So we don't have G sound anymore. We have only design. And also here, G sound is removed. We have here a line. And here we have rain. And here we also have campaign. So based on this regularity, we can formulate a phonological rule. So the phonological rule is related to dilation or removal of sound. So we can say that G changes to nothing. So this indicates dilation. This indicates dilation. So G is dilated or G changes to nothing whenever G is located or is placed before N sound. Okay, you can see here regularity. G, N, and G here is also followed by N, and here also G is located before N, okay, until the end of the data. So you can see that we have regular data, that G is located before N, and G here is not pronounced. So the rule says G changes to nothing, okay, whenever G is located before N. However, some cases seem to break the regularity. Why I said break regularity? Why? Because G here is pronounced even though it is placed before N. As you can see here, dignity, not dignity. It means that the sound G is kept. The sound G is not removed. And also in signature. So the sound G is also kept. And also in signal. So what should we do now? We must add another phonological environment to show that these regular data can be formulated into a phonological rule. What is the condition? We can see here that the regularity in this data, okay, the removal or the deletion of G is the removal or the deletion of G only occurs whenever G and N are the final sounds of a word. So we need here a notational device. What is it? We need a word boundary. Okay. Therefore, we can reformulate the rule. Okay. For this case, we can formulate the new rule. Okay. So we have now G becomes nothing, or G is deleted. G is removed whenever G is located, okay, before N, and it is the final sound of a word. Okay, so this is actually how we use the phonological rule or how we formulate a phonological rule. So the phonological rule must be applicable to any similar phonological environment. If it is not, so it is not a case of regularity. Okay, so G becomes nothing or G is deleted only whenever G is placed before N and it is the final sound of a word. Okay, now because phonological rule is related to the statement, okay, statement of the rules, so we can say that G changes to nothing whenever G, okay, is located before N and it is the final of a word. So we have to use distinctive features in order to formulate the statement. Now, as you can see here, that G here is negative anterior, negative coronal, and positive voice. Why I write here? Because if I put here of it, or if I write here negative voice, it doesn't belong to G. because if it is negative voice, it belongs to k. So negative anterior, negative coronal, positive voice represent g. And g here changes, or negative anterior, negative coronal, positive voice changes to nothing whenever it is located before positive nasal, positive anterior, positive coronal, which represent n. And it is the final sound of a word. So this is the phonological rule to represent or to say that the deletion of g occurs in this data. It's not difficult, but before you formulate the statement, you must know exactly distinctive features, the topic that I have explained to you in the previous videos. So you must know exactly about distinctive features. Okay, so this is a segment dilation. This is only one example. Okay, once again, you can only formulate a rule, a phonological rule only if you have regular data. So you must collect regular data and then you can formulate a phonological rule. Now, let's see the second example. Once again, the main condition is regularity. Now, we have the data here. Uncle, okay, pinky, wrinkle, ranking, punky, tanker. What happened here? What is the regularity that occurs in this data? You can see here that the regularity occurs whenever n is followed by k sound. Okay, n is followed by k sound, and also here n is followed by k sound. K sound. So whenever n here is followed by k, n changes to sound. So we can find now regularity in the data. If the data are regular, and then we can formulate a phonological rule. Now, you can see here, we can easily formulate that changes to under the condition or whenever n is placed before k. Now, let's see. This is the rule, and now we formulate the formal statement for this rule. Okay, and this rule is called segment change rule. Why? Because we substitute the sound. We don't delete the sound. We only change the sound. We don't substitute the sound. We don't add any sound. So the rule is called segment change rule. So here you are. This is the statement. Positive nasal, positive anterior, positive coronal sound changes to positive nasal, negative anterior, negative coronal. So you can see here that N is positive nasal, positive anterior, positive coronal, but is positive nasal, but it is negative anterior, and it is also negative coronal. So this sound, positive nasal, positive anterior, positive coronal sound is changes to positive nasal, negative anterior, negative coronal whenever this sound is located before negative anterior, negative coronal, negative voice. These distinctive features represent K. So this is N changes to N whenever N is located before K. So as I demonstrate two examples, I believe that you know now that the main condition of formulating phonological rules as regularity. If the data are not regular, you cannot formulate any phonological rule. I hope this material is useful for you and you can understand it and help you in the process of learning phonological rules. And of course, in learning phonology in general. Now, that's all, and see you in the next video.